Ever wonder why your plants aren't getting the nutrients they need even though you feed them plenty? In this video, I'll show you how nutrient lockout happens and how you can avoid it. Hey, but before we do, today's video is brought to you by Real Growers Grow Dots, the easiest way to feed your high-value plants. You mix Grow Dots in once at the beginning of your grow, and they feed your plants all the way to harvest. You don't have to worry about nutrient burn or nutrient lockout. Grow Dots does all the hard work for you. Check them out over at realgrowers.com. And while you're there, use coupon code Scotty420 to get 20% off your first order. Now let's get back to the show. All right, hi, so you ready to talk a little cation exchange, sir?
All right, man, I got to admit, I'm a little bit scared of this one because it sounds like science class, and I didn't do good in science class.
Yeah, I can help you with this. There is some science involved, but I'm a simple person, and I've made it simple, okay?
Okay, so we're going to be talking about nutrients, and you told me we're going to be talking about bonding to the soil.
Yeah, we talk about nutrient lockout, and what that is there's nutrients, and they're all charged. Nutrients are like magnets, I'll say. There's positive, and then the soil is the negative part. So the soil's like your hunk of metal. The nutrients are like magnets. And yes, sir.
And if you pour nutrients in, and if there wasn't that opposites attracting thing going on,
they would just wash away.
Okay, so this is about keeping the nutrients in the soil so they can eventually make it to your plants.
Yes, and then knocking them off at the right time or allowing them to be released into your plant.
Okay, so let's talk about, you say knocking off. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so if we think of the soil, it's the negatively charged particle. So think of that as, the metal wall or something like that. And then I've got my magnets that I'm hanging on there. The magnets are the cations, they're called. C-A-T-I-O-N-S. I used to think it was cations forever, but it's cations, and those are the nutrients. Each cation is magnesium is a cation, calcium, potassium, and all those have a magnetic charge. They all have a plus, just a +1 magnetic charge. So a positive charge, except for calcium and magnesium. Those have double charges, double positive charges. So they're going to stick to that soil particle, that little spot in that soil particle, twice as hard.
And so you're saying a wall with magnetic...
Yeah, metal wall. I'm thinking a magnetic stud wall is what I'm thinking. But
okay.
A sheet of metal, and then that's the soil particle is your sheet of metal, and then each nutrient is a magnet.
And there's obviously only so much surface area. There's only so much room for different magnets to stick to it.
Yeah, and by the way, like, the smaller the soil particles, the more surface area there is. So when you're talking like some giant particle of sand, believe it or not, that's not nearly as much surface area as like a tinier particle of clay or soil organic matter has the most bonding sites.
So what I'm thinking of immediately is if it's got the most bonding sites, that's probably better. But then I'm also thinking if I've got two sheet metals,
yep,
and I've got room in between them, there's a lot of place to put magnets.
Yep.
But like clay or super fine sand,
it's smash. I mean, we can humanize this really easy as if you're jammed really close together, just shoulder to shoulder with people, you can't move. You can't move. So that's really what we're talking about here. If you have I'm thinking clay, it's super compact. They're these tiny molecules that are these tiny particles that are so packed together, so nothing can happen. Water can't form on the outside of each little particle to be colonized by the microbes and the nutrients. So don't make me say rhizosheath.
Okay. All right. So you were telling me earlier that there's a couple of different things that affect nutrients' ability to bond.
Yes.
You said size, amount, and the double versus single.
Can I use my bar analogy?
Let's go with it.
Come on, man. I was on the exercise bike yesterday thinking about Cheers. Remember Cheers?
I do.
It's if you don't know, if you're younger than me, it was like set inside a bar. It was like one of these sitcoms set inside a bar. And it was funny. It worked, okay? It had balance to it because it had a bunch of different characters. It had the fancy girl and the rough girl and the postman and the accountant and the baseball player jock and all those people pretend they're all elements. Pretend one of those is magnesium and phosphorus and potassium and nitrogen. All those are elements. And when they worked, when there was a nice balance of them and there was space to move around and have conversations, it all worked. My analogy is nickel beer night. When I went to college, there was nickel beer night. Say that Sam goes and all the college campuses and advertises for nickel beer night. Now when you go to Cheers, it is filled with all the same frat boy, college kid guys, and they're shoulder to shoulder. You can't even get in. Is it going to work? The show's going to be off the air in an episode, man, all right? It's going to be half a season. But the point is that it disturbs the concentration of it, disturbs the balance.
Gotcha. And so to take that analogy, we were talking about, I'm going to bring up this chart real quick. You
Sure.
call it the
Mulder's chart, yes.
Okay, so I've got so many seats at the bar.
Yep.
Which means I can only hold so many nutrients.
Yes.
I need the right mix, the right balance of nutrients.
Yes, you do.
And there's a couple of different things that can imbalance that nutrient mix.
Yup. All right, do me a favor. Pull up Mulder's chart, if you will.
I've got it up already.
All right. So those lines going back and forth are nutrients that can antagonize each other. They can mess with each other. They can push each other out of balance.
So they can push one of the bar goers out of their seat and then take their seat.
Yes. So now remember, I'm at the bar. Okay. I am magnesium. You can call me Magnum. I am double bonded to this bar. All right. There's nickel beer night. There's a bunch of folks coming in. I got both hands on the bar. I'm saving my spot. Right.
Okay.
So I am double bonded magnesium. Man, there's a whole group coming up of potassium. All right. Potassium. Actually, there's only one big potassium because potassium is twice the size of me.
Okay.
So he can just show up and knock me out of that seat if he wants. He can just have a single bond. He don't even have to care that much. Put his hand down and all of a sudden I'm squeezed out, man, because he's big.
Okay, so a bigger sized nutrient
Yep.
can push out a smaller sized nutrient.
Definitely. And they don't even have to want it that bad. They can just have one bond. I can have two bonds and they can still push me out. Same as if you have a bunch of them. I'm thinking of
The frat boy bringing in all of his frat buddies in.
yeah, maybe they're the freshmen or maybe it's his little brother and all his friends, but these guys are tiny. They're small, even smaller than me. But guess what? There's 5 or 6 of them. I'm sitting here like this at the bar, and they're just kind of pushing a little bit, moseying, and they push me off. They push me off my spot. That's how cation exchange works in my mind.
Okay. And then I want to dive into this double bond versus single bond.
Sure.
So if 2 nutrients are about the same size, but one is double bonded and one is single bonded,
Yep.
that double bond can push out the single bonded?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
That's the way it works. But don't forget also, we're talking about double bondeds. The only double bondeds that we have to concern ourselves with is calcium and magnesium. That's why they separate them out. That's why they always put them together, because those are the double bonded ones. Those are the ones that can cause trouble.
Okay, so when you're mixing all your nutrients, it's kind of like filling up the bar stools.
Yep.
And you want to get that proper mix.
Yes, we want it to look like Cheers, all right? We don't want it to be some shoulder-to-shoulder nickel beer night.
Okay, back to the chart that we've got
Sure.
up here. I'm seeing that there's certain ones that there's arrows and there's different relationships between
Yes.
them. What does that mean? What am I looking at?
Some of them are synergy. Some of them will help each other. So I'm looking potassium and manganese. If you give it a little bit more manganese, it will help the potassium. So there's synergies with some of these nutrients, but then there's antagonism too.
So it's like you can sit this guy and this guy next to each other, and it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah.
But if you sit Trump supporter and a Kamala Harris supporter next to each other, they might antagonize each other.
Oh man, whoa! I'm more thinking of Cliff the mailman and the accountant Norm. They have great conversations when they sit next to each other, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man.
But you definitely have the opposite where sometimes 2 conflicting
Oh, yeah.
personalities.
Can you imagine a UPS guy showing up, man?
Okay.
Or a TurboTax. So the takeaway from this is when you're looking at the nutrients, when you're looking at the cations and you see those double magnetic charges, those single magnetic charges, that's not the only thing to worry about. You also got to worry about how big they are and how many of the other molecules there are in there.
Okay, so I've got an idea of this, but it does sound a little bit scientific to me still.
We're at the bar, man. We at the club.
I'm thinking about back when there used to be like 9-bottle, 12-bottle mixes.
Sure.
This would be something I was more concerned about, but it seems like the nutrient companies have kind of taken all of this into consideration for us now.
Absolutely. That's why you pay them the money for that line, is because and that's why you follow that recipe. When you go off that recipe, when you start giving it too much green or too much calcium and magnesium, you start locking things out. And that's when you go, hey man, I'm using bottled nutrients, but it's not working.
Okay, so a science class failure like me, if I'm looking for an easy way to keep all of this in balance, let's give a shout out, not a sponsor of the show, but what are your kind of recommendations on what I should be looking for when I'm buying nutrients to keep this simple?
Something simple, not 12 bottles. Before Grow Dots, I used Canna A and B. It's a very simple formula. I didn't deviate from it. That's the important thing. Don't go starting to invent things yourself or trying to tweak a formula yourself. You're talking to a guy that invented a formula himself, okay? Meaning follow the recipe. If you're baking a cake, you follow the recipe, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that would be my point. And these guys, I respect the guys that developed, or the people that developed Canna or General Hydroponics or those other nutrient systems. It's not easy. It took me years of work to do it. So when they get a recipe, that's for a reason. It's deliberate.
Right. And just a shout out for me, I'm a Grow Dots enthusiast. I won't use anything but Grow Dots, but it also makes it very easy to keep everything in line.
It absolutely does. And it took me about 2 years to balance the calcium, the magnesium, and the potassium, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it does take some work. But that is just my 2 cents. I like to keep things simple. That's why I used Canna A and B in the past. That's why I use Grow Dots right now. But what about you? How do you keep your nutrients in balance in your grow? Let me know in the comments. And if you dug this video, please hit that like button. Please smash that subscribe button. Share this video with another grower you know. And check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending. I know you'll dig them.